All right, Nathan. So we're doing the 90s episode.
The 90s, man.
90s is a pretty good decade, if I do say so myself. So I decided to pick 3 movies to watch before we do the episode.
Let's watch some 90s movies.
Okay, these are some classics.
All
so
right.
you might be... Okay, so first I got Flatliners. This is the Joel Schumacher, Julia Roberts, Kiefer Sutherland.
All right, maybe we could watch that one, but what else you got?
Okay. Well, I also got Eraser, Arnold Schwarzenegger, action film. It's his best film of the 90s, I would say.
You ever heard of Terminator 2, Neves? What else you got?
Shit. Okay. Well, last but not least, this one is a classic in terms of the 90s. It is Ice Age, Dawn of the Dinosaurs.
Bro, that didn't even come out in the 90s. You don't have like Pulp Fiction or something?
Wait, did it come out? Fuck. I probably should have looked at the back.
Let's just record.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Welcome back to the Real Talk Podcast, episode 93. I'm your host, Nathan, and I'm joined by the man himself, Matthew Neves, to my left. And today we are going to be talking about the 90s. The 90s is a crazy decade in film, maybe my personal favorite. A lot to talk about.
Oh, yeah. I love the 90s, too. Jeez, I think I'm fucking dying here. The 90s was a great decade for a lot of films. A lot of my favorites actually came from this decade.
Yeah, me too.
And it was another transitional period when it comes to like VFX technology and just overall like directors and filmmakers trying out different things and just kind of going all out.
Yeah, huge leaps in animation and a lot of, going back like from the 80s, that materialistic age, into a more back to like independent filmmakers like it kind of was in the 70s. There's a resurgence of independent films in the 90s.
Very much so. The most notable ones during this era were Kevin Smith and Robert Rodriguez. They were making films that cost like $7,000, $20,000 films, and that became huge.
Like Clerks, right?
Yeah. You go from Clerks, El Mariachi, those 2 films, to like From Dusk Till Dawn and like Jay and Silent Bob. It's like these are now like big fucking movies, and they're still directing, they're still working on other projects, some bigger, some smaller, but regardless, this is the decade that really started it out for them, I think Tarantino even said it best, where it was just like, it's just a new wave of directors, and he was experiencing it himself because he was part of that group. So he's just he
was kind of leading the charge.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he didn't say that in an interview, but he was just like, he's going to Cannes and he's just like, I saw like El Mariachi, I saw Clerks, I saw all these filmmakers around my age or younger or a little bit older that were like just as passionate as I was, but telling different stories. And it was just refreshing to see that.
Very cool era in film. I thought we'd start off with the highest grossing films of the 90s and then get into our personal favorites.
Absolutely.
So let's go from 10.
Okay.
Number 10, we got Armageddon.
Which I'm surprised is Walt Disney.
I actually didn't know that
That's
either.
a Disney movie.
Yeah, Armageddon. Solid movie.
Michael Bay.
Solid movie, yeah, Michael Bay. Number 9, Men in Black.
That's a classic. You can't.
First Men in Black's a fantastic movie. Fantastic movie. Will Smith is like the height of his fame.
To me, that's like the best Will Smith starring role. In terms of like post Fresh Prince, it's like how do you get off of Fresh Prince? And it's just like, dude, Men in Black.
Yeah, Men in Black.
The song's iconic. Oh my god,
it's great.
Yeah.
Jurassic Park: Lost World.
That's a fucking dud, but okay.
Yeah, that one's interesting. Sixth Sense. This one definitely deserves to be on there.
Another great film. Walt Disney as well.
M. Night in his prime.
Yes, absolutely. I'll actually get into the Bruce Willis Walt Disney of the 90s era because I read this recently, but we can talk about the other ones.
Yeah. Number 6, Forrest Gump. Doesn't surprise me one bit. That's to this day a big pop culture reference. I feel like this movie will forever be relevant.
Oh yeah.
Number 5, Lion King.
The good one.
The good one.
We're talking about the good one here.
Changed animation, forever.
Absolutely.
Like when Lion King came out, it's like, wow, the tech is different. Like whole different types of stories can be told now.
Oh yeah. Beautiful movie.
Independence Day, number 4.
Oh, that's another Will Smith one.
Yeah, Will Smith had a run in the 90s here.
I just realized, I'd say Men in Black still is a better role for him, but Independence Day was the bigger film. So it's just like, oh, okay, well, you're Fresh Prince, and then they see Independence, like, oh, fuck, you're actually blockbuster.
Yeah.
Money, like action star.
Number 3, Jurassic Park.
Obviously.
No surprise there. Huge
Yeah.
one. We talked about Jurassic Park. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, Phantom Menace.
That-
Star Wars came back in the 90s.
Arguably the most hyped era of Star Wars.
100%.
Was this.
I mean, you're coming off the original trilogy and you find out you're getting a new Star Wars film. I couldn't imagine what that felt like.
Yeah. I'm actually curious. Are you more of a prequel lover than a prequel hater?
Oh, I'm a prequel lover 100%.
Hell yeah, man.
I love the prequels. I understand their flaws, but I embrace them. And I think they're solid movies.
Hell
I
yeah.
really do like them. And then number 1, Titanic, which is no surprise. I mean, that movie is still making money. Got
Look at
recently.
how different the box office is worldwide gross from the first and the second place. We got Phantom Menace, which is at
Holy.
924 million. A lot of money.
A lot of money Phantom Menace made.
Titanic, 1.8 billion dollars. That's like double.
James Cameron, I don't know how you did it, bro.
Holy fuck.
That's crazy.
Yeah. 20th Century Fox now owned by Disney, so technically speaking, the first, second, fourth place movies are now Disney movies.
Yeah, Disney has acquired a lot of these. Eh?
I love the industry and monopolizing companies. It's so much fun.
So much fun.
This is a good list though. Solid list, kind of represents the 90s pretty well.
Yeah, I think it does represent the 90s pretty well as
Yeah.
far as like the true big classic movies of that era.
Obviously, there were some cases where you mentioned the top 10. I think the most overrated in this list is like the Lost World. To me, that literally just sparked because of the first Jurassic Park.
100%, yeah.
Independence Day, you watch it now, and it's very, very cheesy, very, very silly.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's
But
moments.
at the time, I see it's a big 90s blockbuster.
Oh yeah, and the effects are amazing.
Yeah.
Like can't explain that enough. The effects are amazing. It's more the story that you watch it and you're just like, oh, I'm not watching it for the story. That's for sure.
Yeah, but I could see that movie being like a huge rental, like Independence Day, you know, a huge theater movie because of the effects that are in
Oh
it.
yeah.
Like I definitely see why that movie succeeded in the 90s. I mean, it has Will Smith. Like,
Yeah.
Will Smith is huge in the 90s.
Another
So many things going for it.
Exactly. And another thing too about the top 10 list here is all of them have iconic posters.
Oh,
Super iconic. You can take the titles out of all of these films and simply show the image, the picture, and it's like, yeah, I know it. Like Titanic.
The
It's
90s, man. The 90s for movie posters is such a beautiful time.
Yeah.
So much creativity. Not every poster looked exactly the same
Nope.
like nowadays. And there's really some iconic posters of the 90s that, like you said, you don't even have to read it. You just look at the picture and you know.
Yeah.
Most of these movies, I mean, Phantom Menace, Jurassic Park,
Oh, yeah.
Lion King, these are iconic. Forrest Gump. These
Yeah.
are iconic posters.
They're really good. And it's like you said, posters now look all the same. As much as I love a lot of these films, have you noticed a trend with posters now where it's like the sideways poster design where
Yeah.
it's like they're looking down and everyone's Mission Impossible did it. I think even The Flash did it recently. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, we gotta fucking stop with this trend. Do something different. You have so much creativity. You have so much time to do something like that. And I'm glad the 90s, a lot of these posters really had that like distinction to it.
I agree. Sixth Sense, I love the poster
Oh,
for.
that's so good.
It's such a great. It's simple, but it's great. I don't know. It's just effective. A lot of these posters are just real. Like the Men in Black posters, iconic
Yeah.
with the glass.
Of course.
I love it.
MIB. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, interesting top 10 there. Let's get into our personal favorites.
Oh, shit.
Let's talk about actors in the 90s.
Okay. We're talking
We
actors.
talked about the 80s. The 80s was the action hero era.
Yeah.
And I feel like the 90s, the buff action hero wasn't as popular anymore. People wanted
No.
the the broken protagonist.
Yes.
Or that's kind of seems to be like a common theme in the 90s.
Yeah, because the 80s was very much like the Arnold Stallone era of, well, you gotta look like Mr. Olympia to
Yeah.
fight these guys. Whereas the 90s was more of an inverse, whereas like you didn't have to be the strongest fucking guy.
Yeah, people kind of wanted the regular guy story.
Yeah, and mixed in with some outdated computer knowledge.
Yeah.
This was also the decade where nobody knew what the fuck computers were. They're like, I gotta bypass this firewall. I gotta hack the fucking world. And it's like,
Yeah.
how do you hack the world? You just type world and
Any
hack it?
computer scene in any 90s movie, it doesn't age well.
Oh, hackers, man. You ever hear of Hackers with Angelina Jolie?
No.
Dude, holy shit, man.
Hackers, Angelina Jolie.
Angelina Jolie, I think Matthew Lillard was in it, which, shout out to Matthew Lillard. That guy in the 90s was fucking amazing. He was in Scream.
31% Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, it's not a good movie at all. It's not a good movie, but it's basically like, oh, I'm the fucking teenager. I'm going to hack the system. And then the CIA shows up and it's just like, you kids can't be hacking the system. And we're just like, well, guess what? We're going to break the system. Because you know what? Fuck society. And then Angelina Jolie's like the badass girl. She's like, yeah, fuck society. I'm going to hack the society. Okay.
That's hilarious. I feel like Matrix did it best with the hacking computer stuff. Like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
for sure.
They're the Matrix was the one that pulled off the leather jacket aesthetic and made it actually cool because it blended the effects and the premise and everything like that. So
And
it
the
was
Matrix was like right at the end of the 90s, so they finally figured it out
figured
right
it
as
out.
it was over.
well, it's like Keanu Reeves, he went from Point Break to Neo within like I think 1990 was Point Break and then 99 was Matrix. So
Damn.
he went from whoa to whoa.
Keanu Reeves has some tough performances in the 90s, man. I mean,
Dude, okay, quick question. What's his worst performance in the 90s?
he's really bad in Bram Stoker's Dracula.
He's really bad.
Like really bad in Bram Stoker's Dracula.
A fucking mute has a better British accent than him.
yeah, that's got to be his worst one.
I know when the bastard sleeps. Why do you sound like that? Because I'm British. And then Anthony Hopkins is just shaking his head. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, that one's tough. I mean, that one comes to memory first.
He was also in another hacker outdated film called Johnny Mnemonic.
I've never seen that one.
Holy fuck. He's got like the virtual boy thing on and he's just like, whoa, I'm like in the new world. And he's like trying to beat people in the computer. And it's just, that's another shitty 90s film.
Yeah, I
But,
think his best is probably Matrix.
Oh, yeah.
Performance wise, and I like him in Devil's Advocate too. I don't
Oh,
think
yeah,
he's
another
too
good
bad
one.
in that movie.
Huh. His Kentucky accents, I can move on from it.
Yeah, I'm good on it.
The Bram Stoker one, I'm like, no, this is really bad.
That one's really bad.
But
yeah.
okay. In terms of actors, I'm assuming,
Actors top 5 of the 90s.
yeah, I got my list. You
I got
yours.
my list, and I'm ready to go.
Go for it.
Number 1. This is not really in particular order.
No,
here.
same with mine.
Tom Hanks.
I have Tom Hanks in my list. too.
Undeniable 90s.
Yeah.
Forrest Gump, Apollo 13,
Yeah.
Saving Private Ryan, Green Mile,
Toy Story.
Toy Story.
Yeah.
That's a huge run.
Because with Tom Hanks' career, I feel like the 80s was him trying to like figure out what he wanted to do. So you got movies like Splash and like Turner and Hooch where it's just like, am I like a comedy guy or
Yeah.
am I a dramatic guy? I don't fucking know.
He finds his lane
Yes.
in the 90s, and it shows. I mean, he's perfectly cast in all these films.
Yes.
These roles are for him. And we see him play these types of roles for the rest of his career.
Yeah, he did all genres in the 90s. He goes from like Saving Private Ryan, like a really intense action film, to
Yeah.
like Sleepless in Seattle with Meg Ryan. Like he did rom-coms on top of action, on top of just like
Yeah, but he's always this like relatable everyday man. And it really
Yes.
works out for him, and I think he found that in the 90s.
absolutely.
My number 2 is Tom Cruise. Days of
I
Thunder,
got him too.
Mission Impossible, Jerry
Yep.
Maguire, Eyes Wide Shut, Magnolia.
Yes.
That's a crazy run in the 90s for Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise, yeah, similar to Tom Hanks, where in the 80s he was trying to figure out what he wanted to do. He's like, am I the Top Gun guy?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I was in Rain Man, so am I doing Oscar shit? It wasn't until the 90s, I would say, that he gave out his strongest performances.
Yeah.
Because Magnolia is really good.
Because nowadays I feel like he's kind of back known as
To
the
action.
Top Gun guy or
Yeah.
the Mission Impossible guy, the guy who does these ridiculous stunts. But
Yeah.
you really, when you look in the 90s, you see that, oh, he actually like can act and has range.
As much as I love like Top Gun Maverick and the new Mission Impossible films, the likelihood of him doing like an Eyes Wide Shut or Magnolia anytime soon is like,
It's not going to happen.
I don't
think,
see it.
I think those days are behind him, but I'm
Yeah.
glad we got those roles out
Yeah,
of him.
absolutely.
In his prime. Number 3, I got Jim Carrey.
ooh, okay.
Undeniable. Ace Ventura, The Mask, Dumb and Dumber. Batman Forever is not a good movie,
No,
but
it
I
isn't.
but I think his portrayal of the Riddler is iconic in its own right.
Fine.
Cable Guy,
That's
Liar
good.
Liar,
Yeah.
Truman Show.
Okay, yeah. Those are
That's
really good.
an insane run. Jim Carrey owned the 90s as far as comedies go.
Cable Guy, a lot of people shit on that film.
I
all
love Cable
I
Guy.
love Cable Guy. Anybody who's like, I don't like Cable Guy, but you like The Mask and Dumb and Dumber, it's like, that's the same.
It's like they're all silly comedies,
Yeah.
but Jim Carrey's so good in them.
I think it's because people were like, whoa, it's a little darker. I'm like, that's what I like about it.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different. He's way more creepier, and he's the antagonist, which I like. It's different.
Next, I got Robert De Niro.
Okay, De
Had him in
Niro.
the 80s, and he's back.
You're going De Niro for the 90s.
Goodfellas,
yeah.
Cape Fear, Bronx Tale.
Oh yeah, he directed that.
Yeah, and he plays a very cool dad role. Like you don't expect him to play that role in a mob film, and he does, and he
Yeah.
kills it. And then he does Casino and Heat.
Yeah, that's true.
That's huge.
It's pretty huge.
It's undeniable. And also, I have Al Pacino.
You have
on
Al
my list.
Pacino's there.
And say what you want about Al Pacino in the 90s. I know, hoorah, hoorah. I know. I get it, but he did Carlito's Way, which is an super underrated Brian De Palma film.
Yeah,
Scent of a Woman, Say What You Want. I love Scent of a Woman. I think he's good in that
I like
movie.
it too.
He did Heat, which is a great film. Godfather 3, Say What You Want about it. He has a great performance in Godfather 3.
He does.
Devil's Advocate, I think he has a good performance in too. Donnie Brasco, he's fantastic
Yeah,
in Donnie
he is.
Brasco. And I even threw in on this list Any Given Sunday. Have you ever seen
Oh
Any Given
yeah,
Sunday?
well, dude,
Where
the
he plays-
speech alone.
Yeah, the speech.
The
is like,
inches we make.
it's iconic.
That's gonna make the fucking difference between winning or losing.
Pacino had a great run in the 90s, man.
Yeah.
A great run. Also, he did Dick Tracy, played
Yeah.
the villain.
Oh yeah,
Just a
I
pretty,
love that movie.
pretty iconic role.
That's a good one. I fully agree with Pacino's run in the '90s. It was great. I think his best run still is the '70s.
Yeah, it is.
To
No,
me,
it is.
it's like peak. Like I would say he
It is.
dominated there. But in the '90s, I'd say that was when he was doing shit that he was different.
Yeah.
He didn't care about Oscars at that point,
No.
which I love.
But I like a lot of the stuff in the
Yeah.
90s. And I've always been a big Pacino defender. I think he's
Yeah.
probably my personal favorite actor of all time, even though he has these over-the-top bombastic roles.
Oh yeah, he does get he gets pretty over the top in the '90s, but I fuck with it. On my list, I got Bruce Willis.
Love it.
I
Yeah.
think Bruce Willis really made it his own in the '90s. You see the amount of films he did during that time, and it was like
yeah,
he was
his
the action
filmography's
guy.
packed. Yeah.
Holy fuck, man! He goes from like the Die Hard films to like as we said before, Sixth Sense,
Sixth Sense, Fifth Element.
Oh my god,
Huge.
Fifth Element's so good.
Huge films.
You know what's even crazier? I mentioned this briefly, and I read about it recently. Was Walt Disney Studios and Bruce Willis's contract? So this is crazy. I forgot what the film was called. It was like some shitty rom-com sports comedy akin to like Jerry Maguire.
Yeah.
And they were gonna make it. It cost like $30 million. Halfway into production, Bruce Willis is like, "This film fucking sucks. I'm firing everyone on here." And he
No
straight
way.
up, yeah, he fires the DP, the costume designer, everything like that. They spend half of the budget already, so $15 million. So what Walt Disney does, the corporation, I don't know who was in charge at the time, but they call up Bruce. Is like, "All right, Bruce, we're just gonna cancel this fucking movie. I know we're $15 million already. Could you do us a favor? Let's try to renegotiate." So here's what they do. Instead of making the $30 million film, they cancel it and tell Bruce, "Okay, just do a 3-movie picture deal with us at Walt Disney
Wow.
during the late '90s, and then we don't pay you as much. It's a cut."
Right.
And Bruce is like, "All right, sure." And guess what films those were?
What are they?
Armageddon, The Kid, which is a forgettable film, nobody cares, and The Sixth Sense.
Damn.
Those were pay cuts from Bruce Willis because he was working on a film that was handled so poorly that it got canceled. And it was a $30 million film canceled. It wasn't like Batgirl where they already shot it.
Yeah.
They didn't even shoot all of it. They shot half of it.
Stopped midway.
Yeah, stopped midway. And they're like, "Oh, fuck it. Let's just give you a cheaper deal."
Wow.
Yeah.
That- I mean, it worked out for Bruce. I mean,
Yeah.
two of his some like really iconic films.
Crazy stuff.
And I mean, he did Pulp Fiction in the 90s.
Yes.
He's so good in Pulp Fiction. He
Really good.
Kills it.
Another actor, what did we talk about? You didn't say Johnny Depp, did you?
No, I didn't.
Johnny Depp, come on.
Edward Scissorhands, Donnie Brasco, he's amazing in.
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas,
Holy
he's
shit.
amazing in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great run for Johnny Depp.
It was the one era that Tim Burton and Johnny Depp were on the same page.
Yeah.
One of my favorite films, Ed Wood. They worked together during that time, and it's so good. It's like that was. It's not like Alice in Wonderland now. It's not like fucking shit like that where it's like, oh look, I'm wearing a funny hat. It's
Yeah.
like, Johnny, that's not acting. But another actor which you didn't mention, but I feel like he is well deserved, is Samuel L. Jackson.
Damn, Samuel L. had a great run in the 90s, man.
I think his run in the 90s was better than post 2000s work. Even though his post 2000s work is arguably more iconic.
Yeah.
With characters in Star Wars, obviously Nick Fury and Mace Windu. Every kid's gonna know that. But for me, I'll always, I always think of his roles in the Tarantino films. I always think of his smaller roles.
Not only just Pulp Fiction. I mean, Jackie Brown. He's the protagonist of Jackie Brown, and he's amazing in it.
Yeah, really good stuff. The Long Kiss Goodnight with Gina Davis. Him and her are.
Oh yeah, you told me about this one on another pod. I gotta see this one.
That's his favorite role. Sam Jackson's like, that's my favorite role I ever done, and I'm just like, damn, because he's done a lot of roles.
What else is Sam Jackson in the 90s?
You probably don't know, but he makes a quick scene in Goodfellas.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
It's like nobody would notice unless you heard. He's like, wait a minute, was that Sam Jackson? And then Pesci just kills him.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh shit.
I guess like he just wanted to be in it. In a Scorsese film. I don't know.
Also, he was in Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. He's worked with Spike Lee before, another great director.
Who emerged in the 90s with this like really cool, unique style.
Yeah. So he's got his fair share of films, but I would say my favorite era from Sam Jackson was the 90s.
Cool.
Yeah.
Who else you got?
Oh shit. I thought my laptop fucking went static for a second. No, I think that's Bruce Willis, Tom Hanks, Tom Cruise, Samuel L. Jackson, Johnny Depp. Those are my top 5 actors. Yeah.
Great list. Okay, let's do directors.
Oh, shit.
Save movies for last.
Okay.
Top 5 directors. Guess who it is? Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, you're going Scorsese.
Back on every list we've ever done. 70s, 80s, and 90s. Goodfellas, Casino, Cape Fear.
Yeah. Cape Fear is a hilarious movie.
I mean, I have to put him on. Goodfellas and Casino are 2 masterpiece films, and Cape Fear is fun in its own right.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people think of it as, like, really silly, but the editing in that film is so good.
Yeah.
Nick Nolte and Robert De Niro.
It's fantastic.
Holy shit. But, yeah.
Tarantino, I mean, he like changes the way dialogue's written for a lot of years after this.
Absolutely.
I think we're still seeing the effects of Tarantino dialogue in like Marvel films and shit like that.
Yeah.
They kind of try to write like Tarantino, I feel sometimes.
The funniest is somebody asked him if they saw the reference that they had was what was it? I think it was fucking Winter Soldier, Captain America Winter Soldier, when Nick Fury fakes his death, the gravestone has the verse that he says in Pulp Fiction.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
And it's like, did you watch that film? And I think Tarantino is like, I've seen 2 Marvel films.
Yeah.
Sam told me.
Sam
He told me, he's like,
me.
hey, check this out. And then I saw the scene and I was like, holy shit, you fucking reference one of my movies?
That's funny. I mean,
Yeah.
he does Reservoir Dogs, Pulp
Yes.
Fiction, Jackie Brown, 3, in my opinion, classic films.
Absolutely.
What a run Tarantino had in the 90s. I got Spielberg, Jurassic Park, Schindler's List came on the same fucking year.
Oh, yeah.
And then Saving Private Ryan. That's, again, 3 masterpieces.
That was a really good era.
I got James Cameron.
Ooh, yeah, James. Well, Terminator 2.
Terminator 2, you know, he's that's a huge movie. Terminator 2 is such a fucking genius sequel.
That's my favorite James Cameron film.
It's a genius sequel because it flips the Terminator franchise on its head. It's such a fresh, original idea. It's like with the day and age of unnecessary sequels, this is one that's not, because it adds something new to that franchise, right?
It's the best ending to the Terminator franchise, which I'm glad they've only made 2.
It's like he's the Terminator in that first one, such a badass, and then in the second one, he doesn't kill.
Yeah.
It's so awesome. But on paper, it doesn't sound like it's going to work, and it works to perfection because it has this emotion behind it.
Yeah, it's a great subversion because you think the villain's going to be bigger than Arnold. It's like, no, it's just some guy. And that's what makes it creepier because he's just an everyday guy.
And he did True Lies, and he did Titanic, which is still making money somehow.
Exactly.
And then I got David Fincher, who has
Fincher's
2 of my
good.
favorite films in the 90s, Fight Club and Seven.
That's true. Yeah.
Those are 2 masterpieces to me, so I think he belonged on this list.
That's totally fair. That's your list?
That's my list.
I'm going for mine. Mine's a little different, just slightly. I got Catherine Bigelow. Point Break and Strange Days. Those two films are so 90s. They're so awesome.
They do encapsulate the 90s.
I love that era. I would say that's my favorite era that Catherine Bigelow was directing. She's fantastic with action, and she worked on greater films in the future. But I feel like that era really was like very iconic for her to work on. So Strange Days is really good. Highly recommend it. I know a lot of people have not heard of that movie, but it's really good. Kevin Smith, I would say, was a very 90s director.
Yeah.
I'd say he peaked so hard in the 90s that everything else after kind of was like,
It seems like he's always been chasing that 90s.
I saw Clerks 3 recently. That film was dog shit.
Oh, I saw your Letterboxd review. I was
Holy
like, damn.
shit, man. It is not like the first Clerks. The first Clerks like illustrates what 20-something-year-olds were doing in the 90s. It was very like nostalgic in that regard.
It captures the time well, right?
Yeah, very much. I got Tarantino. He really
Have to.
loved it. Pulp Fiction still my favorite film from his. I know that's a basic answer, but it's
Some answers are basic because they're true, I believe.
fucking
and,
A.
And you don't always have to be different. I don't like these. I don't feel some film guys try too hard to be different and like not like films that are really good.
Yeah.
Some films are really good, really popular because they're just really fucking good.
Actually, my favorite Tarantino film is My Big Sister's Wedding, the first film that he ever directed that was unfinished.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, no, it's
like
not,
no.
dumbass.
Pulp Fiction is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
That's why you like it.
Exactly.
It's that simple.
Fucking. Actually, it's very overrated. It's like, I hope more people watch it. Like, then I got Robert Rodriguez. He made some good fucking movies during that time with very little budget.
What did he do in the 90s?
He did El Mariachi. He did Desperado. He did From Dusk Till Dawn.
Huge.
Those three alone, I love, especially From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah.
It was a movie where you go from George Clooney and Tarantino being like pieces of shit, like bank robbers and just all around terrible people, to like being vampire killers. And I'm just like, what the fuck?
It's a wild movie. It's a wild 90s movie.
It's just people having fun.
Yeah.
You know? Another one on my list. Hold on, Tim Burton.
Yeah.
Tim Burton really peaked in the 90s. Batman Returns. My favorite film from him, Ed Wood. It's just one of my favorite films in general. Came from that era. He had some duds. I'll admit it. Mars Attacks is kind of shit.
Yeah.
But in terms of his style, I feel like he really did peak at that point because he had the money, he had the influence, he had the vision.
Yeah, he was doing what he wanted.
Exactly.
After Batman 89. Yeah.
And those are my 5 directors list.
Okay, we're running low on time, so let's get straight into the films.
You do the films.
That's what you've been waiting for.
Oh,
Top
yeah.
5 films of the 90s. This was the hardest list for me to put together.
Yeah.
And I got a couple of honorable mentions too. I'm going to go number 5, The Matrix.
Yes.
Matrix changed my life. Quick story on how I watched The Matrix for the first time. My dad bought me an original Xbox from a garage sale one day. He came home with like an original Xbox.
Yeah.
And I was so excited to try it because I always had PlayStation. I never had an Xbox. And when I started the system, there was a Matrix DVD inside. And I was young enough that I didn't really know about the movie.
Yeah.
So I just sat down and watched it.
That's awesome.
And I didn't know anything, and it blew my fucking mind.
Holy shit.
So that's a cool Matrix story. Number 4, I got Truman Show.
That's
I
good.
think that's peak Jim Carrey in the 90s. That film's so well written, and he's great in it. Number 3, Pulp Fiction. Number 2, I got Shawshank Redemption.
Oh yeah.
It's a masterpiece. It's a classic. It's a timeless film. And number 1, I got Goodfellas.
Classic.
A couple of honorable mentions: Carlito's Way, Fight Club 7. Jackie Brown, I really love. Lion King is such an important movie, I think. And Terminator 2, which we talked about.
Great stuff. Okay, I'm gonna do my list now. This is tough, but the 90s. Like I usually don't rate films like 5 out of 5 unless I'm like fucking this hit me so hard.
Yeah.
Most of these films are 5s out of 5s, like 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Iron Giant. It's my favorite film of all time. I cannot.
That's your movie.
It's my movie. Goodfellas. The editing in that, it's like it's imagine having the best scene after every best scene.
Yeah.
It's like there is no duds in
Editing,
that film.
cinematography, performances, writing, everything.
So good.
Perfect.
Ed Wood, I already said it before, favorite Tim Burton film. Love it. Love movie making.
I got to revisit that one.
Really, really good. Good Will Hunting.
Damn. Yeah.
Really hit me. Matt Damon, Ben
fault.
Affleck. It's Robin Williams' best performance. I'm still gonna say it because it
Not
is.
your fault.
And then Shawshank.
That's a great list.
Dude.
What a decade the 90s
Yeah.
is. Let us know your favorite movies of the 90s in the comments. Thanks for watching this episode of the Real Talk Podcast. Leave us a like, comment, and subscribe to your boys. We'll catch you in the next one. Take care. Brush your hair.
Peace.